Welcome back, everybody, to the C+J Speedway review. Back to being live on the YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. If you're joining us after the fact, we just thank you for joining us. My name is Chris Burns. Across the screen from me in the what looks like the palatial den of the Huffnagel Resort, it's Corey. Corey, how are you today?
I thought you were gonna call it the Italian restaurant like the last time, and I just want.
When it's all lit up, it looks like
Yeah.
the Italian restaurant. Now in the summertime, the sun,
Which is also a 5-star review. But no, I mean, I'm doing pretty good. We had a lot of good racing at Kentucky and the Bluegrass State this past weekend, and I probably say the racing went pretty great. Thursday and Friday, was exciting, and then Saturday, we pretty much saw, one driver pretty much prove that he's going to be the one to beat for the championship this year.
Yep, and let's be honest, man, just a fun weekend all the way. I'm looking at these results. I'm looking at all the things we have in front of us going forward, and man, you are right. One driver has really set himself apart going forward in these events.
Absolutely.
And on the Cup side, as if we didn't know there was a big three, the big three just got a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
With the win this weekend. And speaking of that winner, who we have not named yet, big news that I read this morning is that 5 Hour Energy is not returning to sponsor the 78. What do you think of that?
See, I'm not really surprised by this because if you look at the last few years, I think the reason why a lot of these big name sponsors have been pulling out of the sport and not been coming back to like teams, it's pretty much, the money. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it takes like probably $500,000, maybe like $250,000 to sponsor a race car. And I think with 5 Hour Energy, they've been around ever since, they were with Michael Waltrip Racing and then with, Furniture Row with Eric Jones for 1 year, now with Truex. And the fact that, they're leaving next year, it pretty much, has Furniture Row thinking, okay, who are we going to have for our backup sponsor or for our second sponsor? Because, sometimes, they'll usually sponsor Furniture Row in a couple races. And then usually this year it's been either Bass Pro Shops or 5 Hour Energy. But I think if you look at it, you're probably going to see a lot of these big name sponsors pull out, I think, within the next few years because they're pretty much thinking of, okay, we can't afford, to sponsor a race car, for the next couple of years. And, once that big name sponsor goes out, then, then that team's going to think, okay, who do you think we're going to have for our sponsor next year? Because let's be honest, Lowe's is leaving at the end of this year with Jimmy Johnson's team, and they've been around since, my goodness, since like 96, 97. They've sponsored a lot of different drivers and so forth. But yeah, honestly, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what Furniture Row can come up with. And if they can only have like one sponsor next year, it's what they're going to have to go with.
This reminds me of '89 when Rusty Wallace was going for his cup. Nobody thought he was going to win. Everybody thought it was an Earnhardt championship.
Right.
They already knew their sponsor was leaving. So they really didn't have anything to lose other than, their shot at the championship, which we all know Rusty Wallace was the winner. Fast forward to the next year, Miller signs on. They sign a 10-year deal, not with the team, but with Rusty Wallace. They want to attach themselves to the driver, to the name, which you just don't see anymore. I can see the financial responsibility behind 5 Hour Energy, kind of wanting to walk away. But you're walking away from not only last year's champion, but right now he is a championship contender. He is one of the big three. So I can see the financial standpoint, but at the same time, he's giving them advertising. He's done some great commercials for them. They're working in tandem with this sponsorship. I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it out to be, but it does kind of suck when, anytime you have a driver and you buy gear, whether it says Bass Pro Shops or Furniture Row or, 5 Hour Energy, and then the next year you have to get all sorts of new gear. That only hurts the fans' pockets. But, business is business, and you got to do what you have to do to make money.
Exactly. And, like I said, it's going to be interesting what Furniture Row can come up with next year. And not to mention, I really want to see what Jimmy Johnson can sponsor next year as well.
Well, if Jimmy Johnson needs a sponsor, he can go to Walmart. He can go to wherever. Who cares what Jimmy Johnson does? Seriously.
Right.
I'm kidding. No, that's another great question because, again, you're walking away from a 7-time champion. They sponsored NASCAR from what I can remember from the days of Mike Skinner in the 31 back in the late 90s. So Lowe's has always been a presence on the NASCAR Cup scene, and now they're going to be gone. So, what do? You just grin and bear it, and you make the best business decision that you can possibly make.
Exactly.
All right. Well, what a great week we had. Let's start with the trucks in Kentucky and Ben Rhodes. What a win for that kid. Great to see him take home the checkered. I think we were just talking about him not too long ago as one of those guys that really needs to cement himself in the series.
Exactly. And if you look at the race on Thursday night, they started third. They had a really good truck. I probably say in the beginning, they won the first stage. And then, of course, Gregson ended up winning the second stage. But the way I look at Thorough Sport right now, they didn't win until probably around like July when Matt Crafton ended up winning at Eldora. And I look at, this team right now. I want to say, okay, they're there, which they have the one win, but now I really want to see what Matt Crafton can do. And if you look at Rhodes' stats this season, he has about 1 win, 5 top 5s, and 7 top 10 finishes. So not too bad for this 41 team. And I'd probably say now that they stamped themselves into the playoffs coming up in September or whatever month it is or so forth, I really think this is going to be the dark horse team coming in, because if you look at last season, they ended up winning at Las Vegas. They made it in on a tiebreaker, before that. And then, they almost made it to the championship 4, and then they got taken out in that big wreck at Phoenix. So, but honestly, I really want to see what Rhodes can do. And I really think, and I probably say I'm predicting he's going to make the championship 4 in November.
It's not hard to look at it and say that that's going to be a grand possibility. When you look ahead of him in the standings, and I know we haven't gotten there yet, the guys that are ahead of him, he's only separated from 6th by 12 points. He's only separated from 5th by 24 points. And then you have the 4th place car where he's separated by 23 points. So not hard to think that he can make that jump and be right there in the hunt when you get down to that championship 4 in Miami.
Exactly. And if you look at the top 8 right now, I mean, I still see a few guys that, that could use a win, in the next couple of weeks. I mean, I look at Stuart Friesen. You look at him this year, he's been clicking off, finishing top 5s, top 10s on the mile and a half this season. And, he's another guy that I've been watching all year. And I've said to myself, okay, he's going to win a race sometime soon, or he'll probably just point himself in, like everyone else is going to do anyway. But one other guy that I'm kind of impressed on would definitely have to be Grant Enfinger, and he's another Thorough Sport guy that, has been clicking off 4 top 5s and 9 top 10 finishes. So this is going to be a team that if they make the playoffs, I would probably consider them being a sleeper. And then you look at Matt Crafton, of course, the 2-time champion, only 5 top 5s, 6 top 10s. I really think that 88 team, they should win this year. But yet again, I could probably see another guy who can point himself in and also predict that I could see him going to the championship 4 in November.
Well, as of right now, in the top 8, which is the cutoff for the Truck Series, there's only 2 guys without a win, and that's Grant Enfinger and Stuart Friesen.
Yeah.
So to point in, you're looking at Myatt Snyder, Cody Coughlin, Dalton Sargent. Those are guys that really have to step it up, because the disparity between Justin Haley right now at the cutoff in 8th at 421, you go down to Myatt Snyder, and he's at 338 for points. That's nearly 100 points right there. He's going to have to wrench that wheel something fierce in order to get himself up there to point in. Same for Coughlin, same for Sargent. I think you're looking at, unless one of these guys underneath that top 8 gets a win, you're looking at championship 8.
And if you think about it, it's not that it's not too far away before we start the playoffs coming up next month in Canada. So for those guys that, that have yet to win this year, and then the guys that are outside that top 8, they got to do what they have to do. And, and at this point, they got to step it up and, try and get up to the front and lead laps and win races.
Absolutely. So let's look at the finish for this weekend's Truck Series in Kentucky. Then we'll go to the average finish and the points. Ben Rhodes obviously comes home a winner. Stuart Friesen comes home second. Matt Crafton third. Brennan Jones fourth. John Hunter Nemechek fifth. Grant Enfinger sixth. Todd Gilliland seventh. Noah Gregson eighth. Dalton Sargent ninth. And Justin Haley rounds out the top 10. Other notables, we just mentioned Cody Coughlin. Sorry, he finished 12th. Johnny Sauter, not his best day, but not a bad day, 15th. Brett Moffitt, not a great week for him in 18th. And going down the list, Myatt Snyder, 26th. Parker Kligerman, as much as I like seeing him get out there, he's not setting the world on fire when he does get back in the vehicle. 27th on the list. And those are your notables. So we had special guest Chelsea last week, and she took Brett Moffitt to win as her lock. He finished 18th. She took Justin Haley as her sleeper. He finished 10th. You add those up, you get 28. You divide that by 2, her average finish this week, Chelsea. Your finish was 14th. Not bad.
No, not too bad at all.
Great first outing. Now, Corey, in our picks, this has probably been in all 3 series as close as we've been. It was a great week for us in all 3 series. Neither one of us really fell off. So I'll go with mine. I had Noah Gregson as my lock. He finished 8th. Justin Haley was my sleeper. He finished 10th. That's a total of 18. You divide that by 2. My average finish was 9. Not bad. Top 10. I like it. So, Corey, you took Brett Moffitt as your lock. He finished 18th. You took Stuart Friesen as your sleeper. That helped you out a lot. He finished 2nd. You add that up, you get 20. You divide it by 2, you get 10. So, Chris is your truck pick champion this week. Congratulations to me. And you can send your money or your PayPal stuff to cburns19@gmail.com. Here are your point standings. Johnny Sauter first with 554 and 4 wins. Noah Gregson second, 522 with 1 win. Brett Moffitt third, 474 with 3 wins. Grant Enfinger, 458, no wins. Stuart Friesen, fifth, 449, no wins. Matt Crafton, sixth, 437, no wins. Ben Rhodes, well, we know where he finished, and he's 425 with 1 win. Justin Haley, 421 with 1 win in 8th. Myatt Snyder, 9th, 338 with no wins. And Cody Coughlin rounds out your top 10 with 324, no wins. No need to go over the points again because we just had a little discussion about the point standings and what we think about the truck series. But we're going to be talking about another young man next week. And Corey alluded to it on the Facebook post. We are not talking about Eldora tonight. We're going to do that next week. Yep. So let's move right along to the Xfinity series. And boy, were we smiling because our boy Christopher Bell came home with the win in a great race. I saw the 90-second greatest hits package. So Corey, you probably watched the race. What'd you take away?
So I had to say Christopher Bell ended up starting in the back because he ended up spinning in qualifying, and they had to change tires. And under the NASCAR rule, you change tires, whatever, you have to be sent to the back whatsoever. But I think if you look at this race on Friday night, you did see some of the Cup guys, lead for a couple laps, which in case, Kyle Busch. But it pretty much turned out to be an Xfinity regular type of night. And I'd probably say the last couple of laps in that race, it came down between Daniel Hemrick and Christopher Bell battling it out for the win. And I just looked at it, and I said, okay, Bell has to, make a mistake, get behind a lap car, whatever. So then Hemrick could pretty much pounce. And actually I was very impressed, what Hemrick did on Friday night, finishing runner up and, not to mention, it was probably his best run, but I really wanted to see that 21 car win the race. But if you look at Bell, we're seeing a statement that I think this is going to be a driver that's going to be a one to watch for in this championship in November. And if you look at it, not too big of a lot of cautions. You had the stage cautions, and then one had like the accident, which of course Brandon Jones spun on the backstretch and so forth. But yeah, if you look at it, I was really impressed on Bell and Hemrick, and not to mention I was also impressed on Cole Custer finishing in the top 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you did mention that it wasn't a great day for the Cup guys. They weren't out there, killing them all. But you can look and see they had a good day. Kyle Busch come home in 3rd. You had, I think Dylan came home 14th. Yes, that's good right there. So without the influx of so many Cup cars, you're right. This was truly an Xfinity Series race that I was glad to see Bell come home with the win. I'm sure we'll go over these in happy and sad. One of the things that struck me, and I'm trying to find his name. Where did it go? Oh, our good friend Morgan Shepherd, who can't seem to get out of a race car. It was in 38th, and I might as well just tell you now. I was hoping for a above 35 finish from Morgan Shepherd, but
Yeah.
such is life, man. You can't have it both ways. But great day all the way around for the Xfinity Series. If you want to, let me give you the rundown first, and then I'll ask you for happy and sad. I'm a little curious because I didn't see his name, and I'm looking for it now. Did Kaz Grala not run this race? Because I don't see his name on the finishing order.
Yeah, I don't see his name on here either.
Well, then that sucks. All right, then. Well, let's move along. As we mentioned, Christopher Bell came home in first, Daniel Hemrick second, Kyle Busch third, Justin Allgaier fourth, Cole Custer came home in fifth, Tyler Reddick sixth, John Hunter Nemechek seventh, Ryan Reed eighth, Paul Menard ninth, and Austin Cindric rounds out your top 10. Other notables, Elliott Sadler was 12th, I from the Cup Series 14th, you had Ross Chastain in 17th, Spencer Gallagher, not a great day for him, at 20th. As we go a little further down the list, the guy you've mentioned in weeks earlier, Ty Majeski, 27th. And as we go down the list, former champion on the Xfinity circuit, Jeff Green, rounds out at 40. Give me your happy and give me your sad for this race.
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so my happy for the race on Friday night would definitely have to go to Daniel Hemrick. And, like I said, I was really impressed on what he did on Friday night. Great run for that 21 car. And even though RCR only has, I think, one win so far in Xfinity, I'm hoping they can get another one soon. And quite frankly, I'm hoping that Hemrick can punch his ticket to the playoffs. But, like I said, he's going to be another guy that I think is going to lock himself in on points. But then yet again, I really think this is going to be a dark horse team to contend for the championship this year. And remember, last year they went to the championship 4, but they didn't really do anything whatsoever. So my sad this week, Okay, so my sad this week would definitely have to go to Brandon Jones. Started 11th. I really thought he was going to do something in that car, but, he ended up getting caught up in a crash like little less than like 100 to go. But, hopefully I could expect a lot of big things out of that 19 team.
Okay. Well, my happy originally, because he won the race, I was going to take Christopher Bell, but the more I thought about it, Cole Custer coming home in fifth and basically giving him a little bit more of a cushion over Christopher Bell in the standings, not in wins, obviously, but in the standings. That to me was a big day for him. My sad goes to Spencer Gallagher. His kid needs to get a really good run after, winning, then the suspension, then being reinstated. He's got to get a fire up underneath him. I don't know if it's the equipment. I don't know if it's him, but something's going on with Gallagher and his team that I'm not so sure he can jump over unless they can find a winning formula. So, as we've spoken on that, let's go to our average pick of the week. We will start once again with special guest Chelsea. She took Ryan Truex, who finished 13th. She took Ross Chastain, who finished 17th. That's a 30. You divide that by 2, and her average finish for the week was 15. Not a bad run, man. She's doing pretty good.
Yeah, she's doing a really good job. I'm very impressed.
Chelsea, if you're watching this right now, give yourself a hand, pat yourself on the back, because a pat in the back is only a foot away from a kick in the butt, and we're going to talk about that when we talk Cup. Let's go with Corey next. Corey had Kyle Busch, who finished 3rd, Paul Menard as his sleeper, who finished 9th. That's a 12. You divide that by 2, your average finish was a 6, young man. I also had Kyle Busch as my lock. That's 3. I had Spencer Gallagher as my sleeper. That's 20. You add that up, it's 23. You divide it by 2. My average finish for the week was 11.5, making Corey our Xfinity pick champion of the week at Kentucky.
All right.
So let's move on to the points real quick and have a small discussion. Elliott Sadler is in a deadlock for first with Daniel Hemrick, although Sadler gets the nod for having more top 5 finishes.
Yep.
or top 10 finishes, I'm sorry, at 10. So Elliott Sadler 608, Daniel Hemrick second with 608, but he's listed as second. Cole Custer in third with 605, 3 points behind the leader and 14 points ahead of fourth, which is Christopher Bell, but Bell has 2 wins in playoff points, so that's going to translate later on as we go to the playoffs. Justin Allgaier fifth, 569 with 2 wins. Tyler Reddick sixth, 541 with 1 win. Brandon Jones seventh with 500 points. Ryan Truex eighth with 479. Matt Tiff ninth with 458. Austin Cindric 10 with 428. Ryan Reed 11 with 399. And Ross Chastain rounds out the top 12 with 362. Now, underneath that, you have John Hunter Nemechek, Michael Annett, Ryan Sieg, Kaz Gralla, all hunting for a playoff spot. Now, the disparity between 13th and 12th is about 42 points. Now, if you go down to 16th and Kaz Gralla, your disparity is now 65 points. I don't see anybody pointing into this top 12, so they're going to have to win their way in.
Could you repeat the question? I think you went a little bit out there.
I'm just saying the disparity in points between 12th and 16th, between Ross Chastain and Kaz Gralla, is about 40, give or take 2 points. No, I'm sorry, 64 points.
Yeah.
So obviously 13, 14, 15, 16 are not going to point their way in unless some of these guys have a really tremendously bad race.
Right.
They're going to have to win their way in. I know we've said it before that we think Gralla has a good shot, but I mean, 16 top 5, 16 starts, 2 top 10. It's just, it doesn't look good for him. I can see Michael Annett maybe doing something, but for me, I think we have our championship 12.
Yeah, I would say so too. I think this is going to be the championship 12 going into the playoffs in September. I mean, unless something happens, I mean, I'd probably say, like, let's say if Ross Chastain has a bad race, the one guy that I could see, slipping in that top 12 would definitely be Michael Annett. He's one of those guys that runs for Junior Motorsports. I mean, decent, but, not really like the best, team in my opinion. But I don't know what I can say, but, I think this is going to be the top 12 going into the playoffs. But I'm just looking at the top 3 right now, and I really say that it's going to be really close between Custer and Hemrick and Sadler for those guys that have yet to win a race this year. And I predict that, those 3 guys, they're going to battle it out until the regular season finale in September.
And even if he doesn't win, to come home with the regular season, if Cole continues on this tear, he's 3 points outside of first place right now. If he keeps this up and he takes home the regular season points championship, that's a big boost for that kid.
Oh, definitely. I mean, they won last year at Homestead, to prove themselves. We're going to be a one to watch for next season. I mean, and if you look at his results, 7 top 5s, 13 top 10s, I mean, it's pretty much a good start so far, but yet again, they haven't won a race just yet, but they're getting there soon.
Absolutely. So as we move on to the Quaker State 400, it was the cementing, as if we didn't think he was going to do it. Right now, think about this. 14 races have been won by 3 different drivers.
Yeah.
14. Martin Truex taking home his 4th win this year in quite dominating fashion. It was silly how well he did. Just silly.
Right.
And there were some great battles, but once he got out in front, Truex was gone. And it was fun to watch. He swept the stages, as he's known to do, as he did, I believe, last year at Kentucky. So, again, he's a guy like Harvick when they go to Phoenix. You go to Phoenix, you pick Harvick. When they go to Kentucky, you pick Truex. Or basically any mile and a half, you pick Truex. But, man, my daughter was bent. She went to bed early. After stage 2, she woke up the next day. She said, "Who won the race, Dad?" I'm like, "Truex." She was angry. But, hey, your guy won. Just leave it alone and have some fun. So, what did you think of this race? I know you were out and about for a little while during this race.
Well, I know that Chelsea was really happy that her driver ended up winning, and but I'd probably say going back to this race on Saturday night, we pretty much saw a championship statement for that 78 team, and they just told the field that, listen, when the playoffs start in September, we're going to be the ones to beat. And I don't even care, how Harvick and Kyle Busch do. I mean, quite honestly, the big three is already set going to the championship 4 at Homestead in November, and the fourth guy is going to be pretty much, too close to call, or, they can't decide who the fourth guy is going to be, because I don't even know who the fourth guy is going to be, because I haven't seen anyone, contend with Kyle Busch, Harvick, or Truex, but it just shows that, last year the 78 team was dominant, on the mile and a halves a year ago. And I think this year they only won like one race on a mile and a half. And then, you got Pocono and then the road course at Watkins Glen and then the 2 mile at California. So it just shows that, Truex can win anywhere. I mean, we could go to Indianapolis and he can win. We could go to Watkins Glen and he could win. We could go to Bristol and he could win. I mean, I still remember last year when he almost won at Richmond, had that caution not come out, they could have ended up winning the race. And then bad luck pretty much happened. They took them out. Boom. That was pretty much the end of it. But I'm going back to the race on Saturday night, and I really want to say that the one team that I think that can contend with Kyle Busch, Harvick, and Truex, and this is pretty much one team that has already won a race this year, would definitely have to be Team Penske. And just think about it. They won at Talladega back in April or May or whatever. And you look at the race on Saturday night, Keselowski looked as if he had a good car, to contend with Truex. And had he not had that pit road speeding penalty, he could have, ended up, contending with Truex up front, winning the race and so forth. And then you go to Ryan Blaney, finished runner-up. And, I just looked at, those two guys finishing in the top 5, and I thought, okay, if Penske really wants to win a race this year, and they have one win, but, I really want to see more out of Keselowski. I want to see more out of Ryan Blaney, because those two guys, surprising that they haven't won a race yet this year, but I'm really hoping they can pull something off. And actually, I have one more question before you end up going on. So Kyle Larson ends up going to the back of the field, and this is my only question. How the heck do you miss driver introductions?
Maybe he had to pee.
Yeah.
Maybe his baby was sick. Maybe he forgot his shoes. There's probably a litany of ignorant, stupid reasons that he missed driver intros. Right. But boy, they tell you this is time. This is the thing. They roll that truck out. Everybody waves and glad hands. But dumb move for him. But you saw him slice through that field. Although he didn't lead any laps, he made a pretty good charge to the front.
If he was running really good this year, I would consider him to be my 4th guy in the championship 4. And, he is showing me a lot of things. But yet again, they finished runner-up twice this year. And let's be honest. Kyle Larson, this is a guy that won 4 races last season. They could have went to the championship 4 had that whole hiccup thing at Kansas not happened. Then you go to this year, which, of course, a lot of the Chevrolet teams have been struggling. But I'd have to say that Larson's the only Chevy team that's been running pretty fast this year, comparing to Hendrick and Childress and every other ones.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But I know you said something about the championship 4 being Penske, and I got to tell you, I'm watching Brad Keselowski these last few weeks, and he has climbed up the standings. He just leapfrogged Clint Boyer this week in the standings. And like you said, we got to see more out of Brad Keselowski, but I have a feeling you're going to see Busch, Harvick, Truex, and Brad Kes be your final 4. But we're getting ahead of ourselves, because now I'm going to give you the running order. Once again, Martin Truex Jr. comes home with the victory. Ryan Blaney 2nd, Brad Keselowski 3rd. Kyle Busch 4th, Kevin Harvick 5th, Kurt Busch in 6th, Eric Jones 7th, Eric Almirola 8th, Kyle Larson 9, and Joey Logano rounds out your top 10. Other notables, we had Paul Menard in 11th, Clint Boyer 12th, Chase Elliott 13. This is where I'm going to stop reading in order. Jimmy Johnson 14. We go down to Matt Kenseth in 19th, William Byron in 20th, Austin Dillon 22nd, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 26th, AJ Allmendinger 30th, and closing it out all the way down in last is Alex Bowman. What you're happy and what you're sad for the race?
All right, so my happy for the race this week. I'm going to have to go with Eric Almirola. He did a really good job at Chicago a couple of weeks ago. He led a couple of laps. He won a stage, and to finish in the top 10 in the number 10 car, I was really impressed. I really want to see more out of this team. And the fact that, Stewart Haas Racing's been pretty fast all year with Kevin Harvick, I do want to see a lot more out of Almirola and Busch and pretty much Boyer, because everyone's all predicting, Boyer's going to be the 4th guy. But yeah, he's already won. He's won 2 races, but he hasn't really showed me like a lot. and I really want to expect more out of that 14. So my sad this weekend would definitely have to go to Jimmy Johnson because, I mean, I'm just watching him this year, and this is just not a season, by far. I mean, he hasn't won a race since last year, and to finish 14th after coming from 27th, I mean, not really the best run, but not the worst run. But I mean, honestly, I could just tell you this. I mean, I would be shocked if Johnson goes winless during the regular season.
Yeah, I know we've talked about that before, but there's something about it that I just don't buy with him and getting to victory lane. It's not just because I'm not a Jimmy Johnson fan, but let's be clear. You're right. He is not running anything that looks close to a championship season right now. And I want to go back to what you said in regard to Jimmy Johnson, and I just want to go how the balance of power has shifted in the last few years. Stewart-Haas Racing puts their cars, all four, in the top 15. All four. Now I'm looking for Hendrick drivers. I see Chase Elliott in 13th. I see William Byron in 20th. I see Jimmy Johnson in 14th. And I see Alex Bowman in 39th. Again, this isn't a Jimmy Johnson problem. This is a Hendrick problem.
Yeah.
Did they bring some of these guys up too soon? Are they taking time and energy and equipment away from, let's be honest, the guy who has kept the house afloat for easily the last 9-10 years, which is Jimmy Johnson? There's something stinky in the stew over at Hendrick Motorsports, and much like we said about other drivers in other series, is unless they figure it out, Jimmy Johnson's going to be field filler for the rest of the year, and he may as well just hold on to pointing in, because I honestly, unless Hendrick figures something out, all the talent in the world isn't going to get a crap race car into victory lane.
And Johnson's been sitting in 12th, like probably the last entire races the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he points himself in, but I don't see him going past the first round.
Well, here, get this. If you look at 12th through 15th, there are 3 Hendrick drivers and 1 Gibbs driver. 12th is Johnson. I know we're skipping ahead. 12th is Johnson. 13th is Jones. 14th, Chase Elliott. 15th, Alex Bowman. What is wrong with this picture?
I would probably say you have 3 of the Hendrick guys that are like right below that cutoff.
And another person we don't see anywhere, I got the top 20 printed right here because I know we always talk about it. I don't see William Byron anywhere.
No, I don't see him anywhere either. I mean, if you look down the 22nd, that's where he's at.
Oh, well, that's probably because I only printed till 20. Well, my happy for the race was Eric Jones keeping the momentum from the Daytona win. He finishes 7th, had a really good day, didn't lead any laps, but he was always in the top 10, in the hunt throughout the day. My sad has to go to Alex Bowman. This kid is better than finishing last or being field filler. Yes, Alex Bowman right now sits in 15th in the points, but, you're a Hendrick driver. I'm not trying to blow up Hendrick. I've never been a Hendrick fan, but my God, kid, you got to do something. That whole organization has to find that little extra, light the fire and kick the tire and get themselves out there and be contenders. You cannot sit back and put all of your drivers sub 10 almost every single week. It's just, you're not going to go anywhere.
I don't think you can.
Nope, absolutely not. So, yeah, we went over the finishing order. Let's get to the average picks real quick. Chelsea, if you're watching, turn it off now and come back in 3 minutes. Because special guest Chelsea took Ricky Stenhouse as her lock. He finished 26th. She took Denny Hamlin as her sleeper. He finished 16th. She took Jimmy Johnson as her hopeful. He finished 14th. You add those up, you get 56. You divide by 3, and that's 18.3. And, if I were to add the bonus drivers this week, it would have been great for me. It would have been okay for you. But she had Jesse Little, who finished 35th. And, well, thank you for all your picks. You were awesome last week. Moving right along. So Corey took Kyle Busch as his lock. He finished 4th. He took Kyle Larson as a sleeper. He finished 9th. He took Brad Keselowski as his hopeful. Why did I write down? Hold on. Yep, I did that. I got to add a point. Keselowski finished third, and he was your hopeful. So, no, I won't have to add anything. That's 16. You divide that by 3. Your average finish was 5.3. Your bonus driver was Matt Kenseth, and he finished 19th. And here's where Chris screws himself. In a good way. Well, not
in a good way.
But either way, same. I took Kevin Harvick as my lock. He finished 5th. I took Eric Jones as my sleeper. He finished 7th. I took Brad Keselowski as my hopeful. He finished 3rd. You add those up, you get 15. You divide that by 3. My average finish was 5. So by a 0.3 margin, I beat out Corey. Now, had we added our bonus drivers, I took Martin Truex Jr. as my bonus driver who won the race, and I basically screwed myself. So congratulations to me. Bend over, grab your ankles, and kiss your butt goodbye, but it's all good. Now, moving on to the points. Did you give your happies and sad for this race? I forgot.
I believe I did.
Yeah, Almirola and Johnson. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the points, and then we'll discuss New Hampshire racing. Kyle Busch continues to lead the way, 799 in first with 5 wins. Kevin Harvick second, 740 with 5 wins. Martin Truex Jr. third, 689 with 4 wins. Joey Logano fourth, 648 with a win. Brad Keselowski fifth, 630. Clint Boyer sixth, 629 with 2 wins. Kurt Busch seventh, 601. Kyle Larson 8th, 581. Denny Hamlin ninth with 559, and Ryan Blaney in the top 10 with 546. Eric Almirola 11th, 534. Jimmy Johnson 12th with 484. Now think about that. 50-point difference between 12 and 11. You were right. Jimmy Johnson's got to get on the ball. Eric Jones is in 13th, 480, but he's got to win. Chase Elliott 14th, 469. Alex Bowman 15th, 427. And Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 16th with 418, but he gets bumped when you consider that Austin Dillon has a win. So Paul Menard right now 17th, 404. Austin Dillon with that win would move up to that round of 16. 362 points, though. If that isn't the luckiest guy right now in the playoffs, I don't know who is. Ryan Newman 19th, 348, and Daniel Suarez 20th with 344. Now, we've talked about the championship 4. We've talked about Austin Dillon having the win, being the luckiest guy on earth. I'm going to ask you a different kind of question this week.
All right.
Of the 3 Hendrick drivers that are currently in the top 16, being Jimmy Johnson 12th, Chase Elliott 14th, and Alex Bowman 15th, which one of those drivers has the most chance of being bumped out, either by someone winning or people leapfrogging them in points?
Well, I'd probably say the one that I look at right now would definitely have to be Alex Bowman, because he's a couple points, above the cutoff line right now. And if you think about it, so let's say like if we go to New Hampshire,
technically right now he is the cutoff line because
yeah,
Dillon has a win. He moves up, that bumps Stenhouse down the list.
Yeah. So let's say like, if we go to New Hampshire and, he gets into another crash, boom, that's it. He's out of the top 16. So, I mean, if you look at it, he's pretty much in danger, which already, he is, pretty much out of the playoff contention list.
Right. Now, I was going to go with Chase Elliott, not because I don't like him, but he's been so up and down this season. Whereas Bowman, with the exception of this last place finish this past week in Kentucky, Bowman has kind of just been bubbling. He's just been kind of riding the wave. He's not making waves. He's not drowning. He's just kind of floating right now through the field. Whereas Chase Elliott, it's either, I'm close to winning, or I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, or I'm running in the mid-pack. I don't think Chase Elliott has a lot of consistency. I would love to see him make that, round of 16, that opening round. I don't know. Something about it tells me Chase Elliott's going to miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Especially if a guy who's been running as well as Paul Menard has lately, or someone like Ryan Newman, who in the last few weeks, every time you look up, he's making a charge to the front. If one of those guys gets a win, now Bowman and Elliott, they're really battling for that last spot.
I probably say yes. And, if you look at and if you do look at Bowman, I mean, of course, I mean, he was riding 3 races with top 10s the last few weeks, and then to get in that crash at Kentucky, that pretty much hurt his momentum.
Absolutely. So as we move on, we are going to New Hampshire this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Not physically for me anyway, but on the racetrack, we are at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We have the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series going on. Corey, tell us where we can see the Xfinity Series.
Okay, so for Saturday, we have the Lakes Regions 200, which will be 4 o'clock Eastern Time on NBCSN. You can stream the race live on your NBC Sports app. It's free to download, kids, so make sure to download it. And then, sadly enough, PRN, the Performance Racing Network, will be there this weekend. So, unfortunately, I am not going to be able to see Dave Moody or anybody else from MRN, but that's probably going to be another race for another time. So I was looking at the entry list the last 2 days, and I was looking at this real closely, and I said, okay, we only have about 2 Cup guys in the field on Saturday, which are Austin Dillon in the 3 and Brad Keselowski in the 22. So this just makes me think, okay, we don't have the biggie Cup guys except Keselowski, which he's won races in Xfinity, he's a champion, so on and so forth. But we don't have the guys like Kyle Busch or Logano or Harvick or whatever it is and so forth. So I would say if you look at this race on Saturday, this is going to be pretty much an Xfinity regular race like we saw at Kentucky on Friday night. But I'm going to look down at the entry list, so I'm going to read this down. So you got Cole Custer on the 00. You have Elliott Sadler. You have Matt Tiff, Ross Chastain, Michael Annett, Justin Allgaier, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Reed. Ryan Preece is going to be in the 18 car this weekend. Brandon Jones, Christopher Bell, Daniel Hemrick, Johnny Sauter is going to be in the 23, which I'm pretty much surprised. Ryan Sieg, John Hunter Nemechek will be in the 42. Jeremy Clements, Austin Cindric will be in the 60 this week. And then another one that I actually noticed was Kaz Grala's name is on the list, but even though he didn't run in Kentucky this past Friday, I'm hoping that he can run the race on Saturday. And the guy that doesn't want to retire or anytime soon would definitely be Morgan Shepherd and Jeff Green.
All right. Well, I'll get started. My sleeper is the guy who did really well, opened my eyes huge last year at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. So my sleeper is going to be Ryan Preece. I just, watching him wrench that car around last year gives me high hopes for him to have a really strong finish this weekend. My lock is going to be Cole Custer. You are 3 points away from taking a hold of the lead. Christopher Bell had the lead for a while in the points. He's dropped down, but he's got 2 wins. He's basically one of your strong championship contenders. But if Cole Custer really wants to stamp himself, he wins this race on Saturday. He takes a hold of that points lead and just basically says, you know what, you got to deal with the 00 going forward.
I would say, so for my lock, this one was kind of tough to choose, but then yet again, my lock on this would have to be Ryan Preece because, he's in a top ride and he finished second last year in his debut. And I was really amazed that, he finished second that day, and not to mention he won at Iowa a year ago. You go to this year, he wins at Bristol, wins the Xfinity Dash for Cash whatsoever. And then you go to New Hampshire, which is a flat 1 mile racetrack. And, Preece knows how to get around, the 1 miles, the short tracks, anything whatsoever. And I really think that, this could be the race this weekend where I would not be surprised if Preece ends up going to victory lane. And, he's got a really good ride. And I think this is going to be a really good race for him. So my sleeper for this one, I'm going to have to go with Daniel Hemrick. After he finished second at Kentucky, I really want to see more out of this kid. I think, this is a kid where he can pretty much run up to the front, lead laps, and hopefully he can win races. And I think this weekend, I really want to see more out of him. Hopefully he can get a win soon or he can, punch himself in on points.
Great picks all the way around. Now,
yeah.
Because we both have Ryan Preece, it's going to come down to the finishes of Cole Custer and Daniel Hemrick. Both guys, top contenders in the point standings. Let's see how it plays out. And I just think it's going to be a great race. Always great racing on the Xfinity Series at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. But now we're looking forward to the Cup Series this Sunday. Tell them all about it.
All right, so we have the Foxwoods Hotel Casino 301, which will be 2 o'clock Eastern Time on NBCSN. Stream it live on the NBC Sports app or on your tablet, smartphone, or anything else in between. And, of course, PRN, the Performance Racing Network, will be there this weekend. So it looks like they'll be there for the weekend. So we have the list. We have Jamie McMurray, Brad Keselowski, Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick, Matt Kenseth, Chase Elliott, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Ty Dillon, Clint Boyer, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, Paul Menard, Joey Logano, Blake Jones, who's going to be making his debut, so forth for BK Racing, William Byron, Brian Newman, Matt DiBenedetto, Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher, David Reagan, Kurt Busch, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, AJ Allmendinger, Jimmy Johnson, Corey LaJoie, Martin Truex Jr., and Casey Kane.
Did you say Kenseth, or is it going to be Bain this weekend?
No, Matt Kenseth's in the 6 car.
Okay.
Yep.
Good. All right. Now, give us your lock, sleeper, hopeful.
So my lock for this one, and I was doing a little bit of thinking on this, so I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to go with a homer on this. So I'm probably gonna swing 500. But my lock this weekend, I'm going to take a really close eye on Kyle Larson. If you look at the 2 races last year at Loudon, he ended up finishing second, and then the July race last year, he could have caught Hamlin, and he was running him down, I think, with a handful of laps to go, and then just didn't really, get the oomph of it whatsoever. But Kyle Larson, I really think this could be the race where he could end up in victory lane on Sunday, because if you look at New Hampshire, it's one of those racetracks where I kind of think, it's like a dirt track, to drive on. And we all know that Kyle Larson, is one of those guys that knows how to run a dirt car, that knows how to run a loose race car whatsoever. Slide job. But no, I'm not choosing any of the big 3 this weekend. I really want to see what Kyle Larson can do, and I'm hoping that he can get a win sometime soon. So my sleeper for Sunday, okay. Yeah, my sleeper on Sunday, I'm going to have to go with Keselowski. I really want to see a lot more out of this 2 team. Even though they haven't won a race yet this year, they're coming off a good run at Kentucky last week. So hopefully, it can give them success this weekend. And then my hopeful for this weekend, let's see. My hopeful would definitely have to go with William Byron. I really want to see a lot more out of the 24 team, and they just haven't had – I'd probably say not the best team so far this year, but not the worst team. But I really want to see a lot more out of them.
I like those picks. I even like the pick of William Byron. But I'm going to go in a different direction. I always talk about momentum, and right now Brad Keselowski has a lot of momentum. He's going to be my lock going into the weekend. The sleeper, like you, I took a swing for the fences, and I'm going with a guy who was won there previously. That's Denny Hamlin as my sleeper. And my hopeful, only because I know he's not championship eligible. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I really want to see Matt Kenseth in victory lane again. He's had good equipment, just been behind some better equipment, and this is a racetrack where I've seen him do really well in the 13, 14 times I've gone to New Hampshire Motor Speedway to see races. So our picks of Keselowski are going to cancel each other out. It's going to come down to Denny Hamlin and Matt Kenseth versus Kyle Larson and William Byron. And let the chips fall where they may. It's going to be an exciting weekend from New Hampshire Motor Speedway, even if MRN is not going to be there.
Right.
So the question of the week, brought to you by me, is simple. We've alluded to it a couple times, and if you guys want to chime in on the question of the week, we will read your answers right here on the show next week. And the question of the week is it time to hit the panic button on Hendrick Motorsports? Corey, your take.
See, I want to say yes on this because, we're already at the halfway mark this year, and it's already a couple of races left until the playoffs in September, and I'm really surprised. Well, I'm not really surprised, but I'm questioned, why this team hasn't got off to a good start like they have been in the last 20 years and so forth. I mean, I really want to say ever since, the Camaro ZL1 came into the Cup Series this year, a lot of the Chevrolet teams, they haven't had the success, they haven't found speed. And quite frankly, the only Chevrolet team that's been pretty fast so far this year has been Chip Ganassi with Kyle Larson. So honestly, I would be really shocked, once we leave Indianapolis and, the Hendrick guys haven't won a race yet this year.
I'll agree with all of that. For me, I thought it was time to hit the panic button weeks ago, right after Charlotte. None of these guys are performing. I don't want to beat a dead horse with this, but I'm kind of interested in what you guys have to say out there, all of you who are watching. You're right. The Chevrolets aren't amounting to a hill of anything. I look at the standings right now. Toyota, Ford, Toyota, Ford, 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 Chevrolet, 8th, Toyota, Ford, Ford, another Chevrolet. So only 2 Chevrolets in the top 12, only one of them belonging to Hendrick Motorsports. Not a great year to be a bow tie, but even worse year to be Hendrick Motorsports.
Right. And if you look at next year, when Ford brings out the Mustang in the Cup Series, and if they have the same season as what the Camaro ZL1 is doing, I'd be really surprised.
Amen to that. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
But does that put Toyota in the driver's seat once again? Because they seem to have caught everything. Every time there's a change, Toyota is very competitive. We had a new Chevy rollout this year. We have a new Ford rolling out next year. Even if the Mustang and the Ford teams catch fire, Toyota's still there. They're still running the Camry. They still have all the technology. They're still
right.
They still have, again, you look at the amount of Toyotas that are running well each and every week. It's crazy to think that Toyota would be behind the 8 ball.
Right. And if you look at next year, speaking of Toyota, I guess the Xfinity Series is going to roll out the Toyota Supra for 2019. So that one, I'm going to be really interested to see, how many laps they can lead and how many races they can win with that car. Because if you look at it, the Camry's been in the Xfinity Series for like a number of years. I think ever since they had the whole like COT, whatever it was back in like 2013 or 10 or whatever it is and so forth. But the Supra, when I saw it, I thought, okay, it's kind of a sporty car, but it looked like one of those cars that you might have saw like in the Rolex sports car series whatsoever. But I really want to see like when it hits the track in 2019 and, if it's really fast and competitive, I'm going to be interested to see how many drivers can win with that car.
Yeah, we're going to find out next season. Rolling off in Daytona in February. Corey, do you have anything to pimp, plug, or otherwise talk about?
Okay, so my logo is back on the Google Hangouts, finally, on the Mac. I'm sorry. But, yeah, so keep following us on the C+J Speedway Review. Keep following us on Facebook. We post up news, results, any of the shenanigans that we post up, anything in between. Also follow us on Twitter. We are at CJ_Speedway. Instagram, we are at CJ Speedway. And, of course, follow my Twitter page at NASCAR Indy, which, of course, we not only cover NASCAR stuff, but also a lot of IndyCar stuff. And not to mention our good friend Joseph Newgarden, which, of course, he did not have a good race up in Toronto this past weekend, and now he's pretty much behind the 8 ball in second, behind Scott Dixon, known as the Iceman himself. And, folks, I just want to give this announcement. So I'm going to be going up to New Hampshire Motor Speedway on Saturday for the Lakes Regions 200, and it should be a very awesome weekend. The weather should be nice from what I've been hearing, and I know for Sunday, it could possibly be a washout, and I have one friend who is going to the race on Sunday, and I want to give a shout out to Mr. CJ Bassett himself. He's a really huge race fan. Me and him have been talking NASCAR, I think, for like a number of months and so forth, and it's actually kind of a funny story because I told him that I was going up to the race on Saturday, and he was going up to the race on Sunday. So he texted me one day, and he said, "Yo, how come you're going up to the race on Saturday but not Sunday?" And I told him, I said, I could only get Saturday off because I have to work the next day. And then he had to work on Saturday and then to get Sunday off whatsoever. But, and then also I want to give a shout out to Chelsea. If you're watching this right now, which you'll probably be watching tomorrow, I love you very much. And not to mention, this is going to be her first race going up to New Hampshire on Saturday. And not to mention her favorite driver ended up winning this past weekend, which she was really excited about. And I said, this is going to be a very interesting season. And if Martin Truex can go to the championship 4 and win the championship back-to-back, I'll be very happy.
The only thing I'm going to say to you and to her is, Chelsea, bring your own money to the gimmick truck, because Corey doesn't make $1 billion to buy you all sorts of Martin Truex gimmicks
Right.
at the haulers. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to pimp the Loki and Jabroni Show, the greatest podcast in New England. Go find it, go love it, go like it. We had a great conversation Tuesday night about our top 10 favorite professional wrestlers of all time. We had longtime listener Jeff Howard sitting here in the studio. He had a great time. He's been texting me for 2 days. He can't stop talking about it. He wants to come back. He wants to talk football, this, that, and the third. He'll be back. But definitely check that out. Check out anything that we have here on the Focus Digital Network, whether it's the Loki and Jabroni Show, C+J Speedway Review, the Writer's Focus, the Libertarian Focus, Loki's Gaming Corner. Lots of great content for you out there. And don't forget, when you do your shopping, go to lokiandjabroni.com, click the affiliate links, shop till your heart falls out, and check out our new monthly affiliate, which you can get beer of the month, cheese of the month, cigar of the month. Lots of great things. They make great gifts. Or if you need to make yourself feel a little bit better, get yourself a monthly gift like that. Great deals going on right now. And check it out. It's all at lokiandjabroni.com. Click the affiliate link.
And not to mention, also one other thing I want to point out. So I guess NASCAR is going to New Hampshire twice this year. So it's not the Cup or trucks, whatever, because that whole schedule changed, whatever. So it's pretty much modified wise. So I know the modifieds will be racing up there tomorrow for their all-star race, and then you got the regular season points race on Saturday. Unfortunately, I will not be able to see the modifieds, but also I want to give another shout out to my friend Billy Festa. He's going to be another one that's going to be coming up to the race this weekend. Huge race fan, and I think we mentioned him before.
Yep.
I guess he is a Logano fan, and I think he was a Logano fan, or I think his son was a Logano fan. I'm not sure, but I was texting him today. He said he was coming up Saturday as well. Said also about the modifieds, when they go back in September, they will have their 250 lap race, and then I think Friday the day before, like, you'll have all these like different racing series. You'll have Pinty's series, which is a series up in Canada, so they're going to be making their debut in the U.S. coming up in September. Then I think you got a K&N East race as well, and then you got all these other like lower racing divisions whatsoever. So it's going to be pretty exciting, and I'm really happy what New Hampshire Motor Speedway is doing, and hopefully they can get a lot of people in the seats. And also, not to mention, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, I want to say next year is also going to be hosting a country concert.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like what Daytona International Speedway is doing for Memorial Day weekend, which they have their Country Fest 500, which they have like a lot of the big country music stars, everything in between. And Talladega was supposed to have one, I think, that same year. I think it was in like 2015 or whatever, but they canceled theirs because funding issues, whatever, so forth. But I want to say it is official for the New Hampshire Country Fest, and if so, I can't wait to see what they can pull that one.
Well, we'll find out in the future. And as for our future, we will see you next week right back here on the YouTube channel, back to being live. Go like the page, subscribe, hit the little bell that lets you know that when we're hot and we're live, you can watch it as it happens.
Subscribe for a shout out.
Absolutely. For Corey, my name is Chris. Producer Eddie Focus is behind the box. We will talk to you guys next week.
Good night.